How's it going, guys? I hope you're all doing well out there today, wherever you are in the world. And it's time for a post-NAMM gear roundup. So I did a NAMM sort of pre-releases video just before NAMM started. If you haven't seen that, watch that first. And I promised in that video I would do a follow-up. So here it is. I realise I'm a little bit late to the party, but I was away for some shows and then busy getting the Wampler Cory Wong video out in time for release. If you haven't seen that yet, I'll leave the link to that as well. Look at me with the self-promotion today. So what I'm going to do is just go through stuff that I've seen that I think is particularly cool. I can't possibly cover anything. If there's anything you think I've missed that's worth a look, please leave it in the comments down below. I'd just like to start off this video by giving a shout out to Matteo Mancuso. Hope I'm pronouncing that right. He is a guy that I've been following for a while, and it's just such a phenomenal player. His sense, his melodic sense, while still being technically unreal, is such an incredible thing to watch. He first came to my notice through his links to Line 6 and Yamaha. He's the guy that plays with the sort of classical fingerstyle technique and is playing like Guthrie Govan tracks and stuff. It's just mental. But so if you haven't checked him out yet, please do. He was the guy that really caught my attention watching this NAMM coverage with his various performances through the show. So I mentioned this in a lot more detail in my NAMM pre-release video, but a special mention again to the Seymour Duncan Hyper Switch. It's such an interesting concept, and the more I've seen about it at NAMM, the more interested I am. I'd love to see a Les Paul version of that as well, to be able to reconfigure the wiring in a Les Paul. Les Pauls, you're pretty stuck with a three-way, so if there's a way of accessing those individual coils and creating more unique sounds, I'd be all up for that. But yeah, Seymour Duncan Hyper Switch, check it out. One of the first bits of video coverage I saw from the NAMM show was Sean Tubbs at the Revv booth, and he was showing off his tilt pedal, which has been out for a while but sounds incredible. But he was playing it through Revv's new D25 combo. So it's an American voiced 25 watt combo, all tube. It can switch down to 5 watts. It has built-in reverb, which is digital, I believe, but it sounded great in the video. There's a gain boost, MIDI capability, and it has an internal load and 2 notes IRs built in. So it's based heavily around their D20 amp head, which is very popular. But I love the idea of it in a combo format. It seems like a perfect pedal platform amp. And with the XLR output and internal load, it seems perfect for gigging or studio. I mean, it'd be perfect for anything I'm doing here, really. So that's a great sounding amp, and Sean Tubbs always plays like an absolute monster. So that didn't hurt. But yeah, Revv D25 combo, very interesting. Jam Pedals was showing off the Harmonious Monk version 2. So it's a collaboration with Dan and Mick from that pedal show, and it's a harmonic tremolo pedal. So version 2. Version 1 always sounded awesome. Version 2 sounds equally as awesome, but they have now included tap tempo, so you can get the trem in time with your playing, but also they've included something called, I think it's tap and ramp, and what it means is you can press the tap switch and it will ramp between 2 different speeds, so you can kind of get faux Leslie speeding up, slowing down stuff. That sounded wicked. Polly was showing off the new Josh Smith Flat 5 pedal. So it's a 2-sided analog drive that's all digitally controlled. It's got presets and MIDI. Josh Smith's been showing this off for a while and it sounds absolutely killer. But again, Josh Smith playing it, it's always going to sound killer. But it's a very interesting pedal. There's been a few attempts in the past at digital controlled analog drive pedals, and it's never really taken off as much. But this one has a really nice format, visually really cool as well. So interested to see and hear a bit more about that. Chase Bliss was showing off the Mood version 2. The Mood's kind of been their flagship pedal. Someone actually commented on my previous video that this had been released, and I checked out some videos and it's just unreal. Chase Bliss really pushed the envelope with the more ambient and experimental effects, and the Mood version 2 takes things to another level. Some of the clips I've heard, it's showing off sort of delay, filtering, you know, sampling kind of stuff. And it's just such a creative pedal. So looking forward to seeing a bit more of that. I haven't actually ever tried out any Chase Bliss pedals, so that's definitely something that's gone on my list. KSR was showing off a very interesting amp. It was called the Orion, and it's a 4-channel lunchbox-sized head. So they're calling it 4.2. So it's shared EQ between clean and crunch, and shared EQ between the 2 drive channels. Independent masters, a really in-depth sort of power amp control section, assignable effects loops, and what else was there? There was an internal load as well, so you could use it without a speaker. Just a really fully featured amp for the size. I think it came in at about 40 watts, 40 or 50 watts. And from the little teasers I've seen so far, it sounded killer. I haven't heard any in-depth sound clips, but yeah, really cool sounding amp. 2Rock was showing off their Vintage Deluxe and the Joey Landreth SIG. It's 2Rock, it's going to sound great, but my God, the money these things cost is just loony. Especially the Joey Landreth one. I can't remember how much it was up for, but I remember seeing it was up somewhere near 5-6 grand, something like that. They sound great, don't get me wrong, but that's a lot of investment, especially if you're going to be taking it out of the house to gig. There was a number of these sort of Bluetooth speaker / guitar amps jam along at home app-based things that came out. There was the Positive Grid Spark Go, which is a really tiny version of their Spark. There was the Fender Riff, which is a bigger sort of, it seems more Bluetooth speaker focused than it does guitar, but there is a 1/4-inch jack and I believe some guitar modeling in there, but they didn't really show off an app or anything, so I'm not sure how that works. And the NUX Mighty Space as well, which was a very interesting offering for NUX is normally really reasonable, and it's obviously going after the Spark market, the Positive Grid Spark market. But it sounded really cool. It came with a wireless guitar dongle as well, so you don't even have to plug into it. While speaking about NUX, they had their new multi-effects unit, the Trident, on display, which seems like a progression from their Cerberus multi-effects unit. And it's now including full digital amp modeling, IRs, MIDI, all of that stuff. Very compact footprint. I'm not sure of the price point on it, but I'd be interested to see more about that. NUX were also showing off their range of Zeus power supplies, which seem to be isolated, high current kind of power supplies. And again, being NUX, they should come in at a really reasonable price. So it's probably quite similar to the offerings from Harley Benton recently. They've been knocking out some really good power supplies. So again, interested to see what price point they land at. Have to mention again the T-Rex Echo Rec. Man, this thing is cool. So it's a complete recreation of the Echo Rec with the analog drum echo, and the clips I heard from NAMM are just unbelievable. Obviously very pricey, but such a cool piece. Ibanez had new models on display from Larry Basilio, Joe Satriani, Steve Vai, Martin Miller, and there was another one as well that was sort of a Towman shape. So they've introduced quite a few new models. Definitely worth a look at the Ibanez booth videos. Music Man was showing off some new Steve Lukather models, the Luke 4. I'm a big fan of the Luke model. I very nearly bought a second-hand Luke 3 last year, but didn't in the end. But they're great guitars, and the Luke 4 is now outfitted with the Ernie Ball proprietary HT pickups, I think, throughout the whole Luke 4 range. They're offering it in 3 single coil configuration, HSS, and there's even one with sort of a double locking trem. I think it's a Schaller, it's not a Floyd Rose. So that's very cool, and some new colours. They were also showing off the Rabea Massad, I think it's still in prototype phase, signature model, artist inspired model, which looked very cool. Again, I covered a bit of that in my previous video. And they were also showing off some more of the Tosin Abassi models as well, which for a more sort of pointy metal-centric guitar, I actually really love the look of it, and I'd love to check one out. There's some interesting features on that. Suhr was showing off new Andy Wood signature guitars and also Matthias Asato. The Matthias Asato ones look proper cool, the sort of white and gold vibes. There's a more traditional telly with a reverse headstock. I'm a big fan of reverse headstocks. And also the other one has a trem and gold foil pickups, and that just appeals to me on so many levels. Peavey was showing off new 6505 and 6505 Plus block letter recreations. I'm not sure exactly what they were calling it. Maybe it was just block letter. But it's obviously reproductions of the very first 5150 and 5150 Plus. Apparently, I can't remember who it was now, unfortunately, sorry about that. When they were interviewing the guy, he said that there was someone on their artist roster that had a particularly good sounding 5150, and so to work out what it was, they took it apart, something to do with the transformer, so they've recreated that. So I'm sure a lot of people are going to be glad to hear of those coming back. In my NAMM pre-release video, I mentioned that Digitech and DoD are back, and I was very pleased about that. I saw some interviews with them at the booth, and it seems like the company is in good hands. It seems like they're already working on new stuff and working hard to re-release stuff that's going to be in demand, so that's really cool going forward. Evertune was showing off a bass version of their Bridge, And I think that's a very interesting one for bass players, because depending on your kind of playing technique as a bass player, notes will often pull sharp or flat, depending on how hard you hit the bass. So for someone probably more metal-centric players, that could be a big step forward in keeping everything in tune and intonated really well. So that was a cool innovation to see. I know Evertune's been picked up by a lot of the more metal guitarists, so interesting to see how the bass bridge takes off. I don't think they were at NAMM as far as I know, but Bogner have dropped the new Uberschall Ultra, which sounds absolutely crushing in the videos that I've seen. Really killer high gain kind of amp. I think there's also a new model of the Ecstasy kicking around. I think it's called the Ecstasy Pandora. Good to see new amps from Bogner. The only thing with Bogner is they've got quite a sporadic marketing strategy. So you never really know what's a proper release and what's a tweaked version or a custom shop or a limited run. But always good to see and hear new stuff from Bogner. Lastly, I don't think it was announced officially at NAMM, but soon after there was a Line 6 Helix update announced with some really great sounding cabs. A Dumble inspired amp. There's a Line 6 original amp, which is sort of sounds Voxy matchlessy type thing. And there was definitely a Russian Big Muff model. There might have been a couple of other pedals. But all of the video clips I've seen sound really good. My HX Stomp, unfortunately, is on a van somewhere at the moment, so I haven't been able to try it yet, but I will be as soon as I get it back. So that was my post-NAMM roundup. Anything I've missed that you think is cool, leave in the comments below. If you haven't already and you like this kind of thing, please look at liking, commenting and subscribing. It does really help me out. And I'll see you again in another video soon. Cheers. Music Man was showing off some new Steve Lee.